Alright, so tonight I'm gonna get this bearing on here. So I've got it in the press, and I'm just gonna use this is the inner race of one of the old bearings I took apart. And somebody had said, I think it was Double Boost had mentioned, John from Double Boost on YouTube had mentioned that he saves these and uses them as packings for like standoffs and that, and vices and everything, because of the fact that they are precision, the dimensions. But I also like using them for just like an application like this. This happens to work out perfectly, that this OD will fit on that, but the ID is small enough that my ram here on my press won't be able to get down through the middle of it, so it'll end up pressing that right down for me. I gotta get a light because I gotta see from underneath there. I'm not positive on how far down this should go. I could do it so that just the top is flush, but I also have this machined area that I could see. Let me see. So I'm just going to look at that and see. I don't think I want to go. Yeah, I probably don't want to go any further than that. Yeah, I'm happy with that. I've got the top of that bearing race flush with the top of the shaft on here. I think that's going to be okay. I'm not crazy with the sound I'm getting out of this bearing, but it does feel smooth. But I mean, it's nothing compared to like the sound that you get out of, like, you know, a new sealed ball bearing unit like this, which is essentially no sound at all. So I wish it was more like that. But I think the only way I'm going to get that out of this is if I decide to go with the other plan I was contemplating, which is, you know, ditching all of these internal parts and modifying this housing so it'll accept the bearing. I did check, and I did find some bearings that had ODs of 73mm, which would be a decent fit in here. Might have to maybe shim the outside a little bit. 74mm I think would be too tight, so then I'd have to machine this out. I have to put it on the lathe and cut that out, and then the wall thickness here would be really thin, so I didn't like that idea. So I'd probably go with 73mm. I think I saw something that was 17mm tall, so that means it probably fit in this cup. The problem is the IDs on them would be all wrong. I would probably have to make a sleeve for this, and the sleeve might really be thin. But I digress. I don't really need to get into talking all about that, because I'm not going to do it, at least not for now. We're going to go with it as it is and see how it runs. And if we have to revisit that at some later date, then I will. What's nice now about having this pressed on here is, the other thing it's going to allow me to do is, I can now, holding onto this now, that shaft is pressed into the middle. I can pull on this, and I can see better how much it's moving up and down. So I'll have a much better idea of when I'm at that point where I think I can stop tightening this. Oops. I was about to say this should make everything easier, but I spoke too soon. It should. It's bottoming out right there, I think. Maybe not quite. Let's try a little bit more. Alright, that feels like it tightened up significantly more than it was, so I'm going to back off now. Back off a quarter turn. Maybe another quarter turn. That feels better. Alright, so now what I need to do is I need to put in the little tiny set screw that went in here that actually tightens that ring in the threads and stops the whole darn thing from unscrewing. And I made sure that I took care of that screw by having it in its own little pill bottle when I took it out. So screwdriver, small screwdriver. Alright, now I had already checked before I did this to make sure that I would be able to do this next maneuver. As you can see, if I try and put this in this way, I've got a problem with interference, but because of this hollowed out area, if I do this, come in at an angle like this, kick this over, and I just realized I shouldn't have painted that surface. Shouldn't have painted this surface. For some reason I thought that surface showed. No, you can't really see that surface because it's going to be kind of up underneath here. Oh, for crying out loud. With that surface painted, it's kind of a tight. And actually I painted this surface too, just with overspray, I think. I mean, it'll go in, but I'm going to shave the paint off. And the paint's going to end up being sandwiched in where I don't want it. Alright. I'm just going to take a minute, hit this with the wire wheel just to get the paint off of it. But I tell you what I'm going to do. Oops. I am going to put a piece of tape across the bottom of this opening right here, because that grease right there is squeezing out from the bearings, and I'm going through all this trouble cleaning that all up, putting it back together with clean grease in there. I really don't want a situation where, as I'm wire wheeling the paint off, any dust from that process ends up sticking to this grease. Yeah, that's not really working out too well. I gotta get too much grease on there for the paint, for the tape to stick. Hold on. There we go. Turns out not all painter's tapes are created equal. I had this other roll of 3M painter's tape and it's sticking better to that. And this other stuff I had was actually, it's funny, DUCK, Duck brand painter's tape. Anyways, let me clean that up. Alrighty, I got the paint off of most of this. I was careful to try and avoid getting anywhere near this edge here that's going to be seen. And I already tried it. I'm not going to have to take the paint off of here. It turns out it was just taking the one coat of paint off of this part. Seems to have done the trick. Now that's going in without a big fight. Let's see. don't think it matters which way this is oriented as long as the screw holes eventually line up. This thing's actually rocking quite a bit still. I'm wondering if I should revisit tightening that up a little more. On the other hand, it doesn't seem to move radially along on this end. And this is going to be fixed by the upper bearing, so I don't think I'm going to mess with it. I remember when I took this apart, that was really sloppy. Alright, so I got this nice non-marring hammer. Non-marring being a relative term. Not sure how cured this paint is. Should be, but you never can tell. And of course it's going to be a bear turning that thing once it's fully seated, so I'm trying to get the screw holes lined up by eye before I drive this thing home, and I can see right now they're not where they need to be. Well, it's getting closer now. That's pretty good. A little bit more. Yeah, it's not bad. I wonder if I could get some screws started in that.